I'm so excited about this. So we do these reset labs a few times a year, and the last one was in November. And at the time I had said to Hannah, I would really like you to think about what's going to be different in your life the next time we do one of these so you can come and talk. And guess what? She changed up a lot of things since then. So Hanna is a fantastic writer, translator, marketer, and in the last, 4 months has completely changed her career, going from being an employee in a marketing company to being her own boss and having to do a lot of the thought work that comes with starting your own business. Welcome, Hanna.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hannah's just a delight. I just wanted to add that.
In Kickstartology language, she's a fucking delight, is what we like to call it. Yeah.
Welcome. So tell us a little bit, tell the people a little bit, where were you when you started Kickstartology?
Okay, so I'm like a Kickstartology like long hauler at this point. It's been good. It's been good.
Hanna, if you say anything about yourself that is not positive, we're going to do what we do to Teresa and make you compliment yourself. So just so you know, I'm giving you that upfront warning.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't mean it as a negative thing.
Okay,
I think it's been really
you keep
good
evolving
for
and
me.
focusing on different things too. So
yeah. And it's been really good for me in terms of consistency and accountability. Like that's something I think I was really craving, and this community is so awesome that I kind of just don't want to go. I don't want to graduate. So here we are.
I love that. So why did you join to begin with?
Yeah, so we were like a year into a pandemic, and I was almost a year into an ADHD diagnosis, and I was working from home and like could not figure out meds and was just feeling really frustrated and overwhelmed, and all my systems that I didn't realize I had just kind of gone out the window, with like everything that I did outside of work and my home like just disappearing. So I was feeling really stuck, and I had to do something, and I had been kind of counting on like I think ADHD medication as a like, okay, this is helping, now we can move forward, and that just wasn't coming together. So I was like, oh, I guess we're moving forward without that, like this isn't figuring itself out. And then a really good friend of mine sent me a link to a webinar that you two are hosting on women with ADHD, and so the timing could not have been better. And so I attended, and then I had a really good talk with Steph afterwards, and decided that yeah, this seems like it feels scary. I find like longer term commitments sometimes a little overwhelming, because I'm like, well, I don't know where I'm going to be on Monday morning in 3 months. Like, what are you trying to do to me? But at the same time, I'm like, well, there's a pandemic. What else am I going to be doing with my time?
But I'm curious, what has changed in you since joining? That's what I really want to get at, because I've seen the way you approach things dramatically shift.
Yeah. So what has changed? I mean, kind of everything. I honestly, the consistency of the program and the repetition for me personally has been so important, because every time we kind of circle back to a lesson, I'm seeing it in a completely different way. And that really highlights what has changed for me every time.
But what has changed for you? You're avoiding the question.
No, I'm not. Not on purpose. Not on purpose.
You should go into politics.
Hot seat. Wow.
Here's my thing. When we started talking, a lot of what you were saying is I have so many things to do and I'm overwhelmed and I have lists and I just need the right system. And as you know, there is no right fucking system. And I would not let you just try and fall back and make that assumption. And this has nothing to do with ADHD actually. And so you started tackling things differently.
Yeah, well, I think like I even just started tackling things. Like there were things that like I'm sure you remember, but I was overwhelmed by a cardboard box in my living room when we first started talking. It was like the biggest possible problem that I could have. And you're like, well, what if you emptied the box? And so that was a whole journey. But like every time I tackle something that's kind of been hovering over me, it kind of reteaches myself that I can follow through for myself and that I can solve these problems, and they start small and then they get bigger and then you solve the bigger ones. So I think that that progress and that I think like some patience with myself and like less beating myself up has been pretty important in the changes that I've made since then.
That's super relatable. I think like lots
Yeah.
of people struggle with showing up for themselves, and I think what you're describing is how you make new connections in the brain each time you do something, and then you're reinforcing it. And definitely the program helps keep you consistent there. Um, did,
Absolutely.
did you have any like preconceptions about what coaching was going to be like before you started?
Oh yeah. I was like, what even is this? I was like, it sounds like not your program in particular, but just coaching in general sounds very woo-woo, maybe a little scammy. Like those were the connections that my brain was making. And so like being on the workshop, talking to Steph, I have a friend who had done the program before and she talked to me about it a lot as well. I was like, this sounds actually really helpful. So, and like not nonsensey, very practical, very actionable things. And like that, yeah, that helped kind of change my mind about it. And like I'm still here. So.
I love that, but I don't want this to be like sales pitch. I'm actually curious
No.
like you recently made a huge decision. And what I love seeing this, having watched you over the last while grow, is you jumped into something very scary where you're now not very scary. That's a thought. Something that's out of your comfort zone originally, and deciding to do your own thing, start your own business, even though there are so many unknowns. And you're going to have to be accountable to yourself even more so now. Whereas to before you said, no, I need to be accountable to others. Yet you changed your life so that now you're pretty much only accountable to yourself until you get clients. You know what I mean? So what gave you the courage to make that leap? I'm curious.
I mean, definitely the path that I had taken in coaching to get to that point where I'm like, oh, I can do these things for myself. And a few like random circumstance shifts as well that helped. And like taking mini risks along the way to get to the point where I'm like, okay, it's riskier not to do this than to do this. Like I'm stuck in something that I don't like, it's not serving me. The good things that were good about it are also running out, and it's like time for something new, and it's almost like it can't be worse than where I started. And like Valerie said, what's the worst that could happen? Like there's what's there to lose here? So I think that getting to that point took some time, and where I was not maybe ready for that 6 months before or a year before. All of those elements kind of came together inside me where I'm like, okay, I've been working towards this without realizing it. I think that was the key thought, is this has actually been in motion. I didn't know this is what I was going towards, but now we're here and I'm like, oh, I guess I've been planning for this all along. I think that was kind of a helpful thought as well.
And one of the things, the alignment framework, which we're going to get into a bit this week, we're always working to connect like, hey, what do you want big picture, long term? You don't have to set it in stone, don't worry. But like, who do you want to be? How do you want to live? Aim high. And how do we relate that to the decisions you're making today in a way that is not reckless and stupid, but that is getting you on the right trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And did that have an impact on it? On your decision?
Yeah.
Not a clear question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Cause I think, like I said, if I 6 months ago or like early last year, this like leaving my job and starting my business was kind of on the radar, but it didn't feel like the right time or the right choice or safe. Like all of that wasn't. And then suddenly it did. And yeah. So I think, sorry, I don't know if that answered your question.
Okay. You know, it's really funny as a coach, you watch people have the shifts, but by the time they've shifted, they don't actually remember how they were earlier. So it takes
Yeah.
no, but you remember you were thinking this. And because when you've changed, you don't think that way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It feels unfamiliar to look back on the decisions you're making. And that's always an interesting thing for me to see. Right?
Yeah.
I love watching where you're going with this.
Me too. It's fun.
And I've seen you put yourself out there in ways that before you would have been way too terrified to do. And you're like, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to throw this out there.
I think, can we share the like cool win that you had in the last month? Are you comfortable sharing? You don't have to go into details, but I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've been working as a writer for years, and I've done like a bit of translation on the side, but it was outside of my day job. So I didn't ever really have time to do bigger projects. And as I kind of started in my business now, I had been a little bit curious about book translation, but I didn't really, like, I have a small contact in the industry, but on the wrong language side. And I was just kind of looking into ways that I might be able to get a little bit of experience and slowly get a foot in the door, and maybe down the line explore what book translation would look like. And instead, what happened is that I created a profile on a translator's, like, kind of a LinkedIn style website. And like within 10 days, a publisher in Toronto had found me who is looking to translate a series of romance novels from the Netherlands, which is my second language that I speak and write. And I'm going to be working on translating one book and possibly 3 books for them.
And the heroine's name
this
is?
year. The heroine of the first book's name is Hannah, which is just kind of hilarious. So yeah, so that's like book 1 is happening like literally in March. Like the contract is like probably today being signed. So it's
congratulations.
I had no idea that would even come up like this year, let alone like basically immediately. So this is really exciting.
I love watching you be on your own team. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to see that. And it's just so much easier too, isn't it, for you?
It is, yeah. And I think like doing, like, I think one of the things that worried me about having like my full-time own business was all like, I'm just going to be so much hustle and so much like just all of this stuff and making things happen and keeping things moving. And it just felt really overwhelming. And then until I realized I was doing that at my old job for someone else.
Yeah.
to no financial gain to myself whatsoever. And that as well was like, that realization was like, oh, wait a minute, hold up. If I'm already doing this anyway, then like what harm can it do to be doing this for myself? Like, it can only go better.